Which Week 13 spreads should you bet before it's too late? Welcome, football fans, grid, iron, gamblers, and every last one of you degenerates. It's Mitch here with my early Week 13 NFL best bets versus the spread. This is the video where I break down the spreads that pop out to me early in the week and the lines that you should jump on before it's too late. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button and don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel. In this video, I'm going to break down Thanksgiving football, Black Friday football, and any other spread that I like. Let's do it with Thanksgiving football. We're going to start with a great game. The Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, a game that I will be recapping over on Bleacher Report. It's going to be a good game. First game, of course, was Week 1. Packers at home took care of business against the Lions. Many saw that as a statement from the Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons and their potential to be a Super Bowl team. But a lot has changed since then, and honestly, I'm not really a fan of how both these teams are playing at the moment. I feel like the Packers are sloppy offensively without Tucker Kraft, and I do feel like the Lions are a little overrated right now, especially coming off a game against the Giants where their defense allowed over 500 yards. Perhaps the Lions were looking ahead to this game, Thanksgiving at home, as a short favorite against the Packers. And for these Thanksgiving games and for these Black Friday games, I'm also going to break down the total, okay? The total for this game is currently 49.5. Makes sense. Both teams could put up some points in a dome at Detroit. There are some key injuries to take a look at and potential returns for both teams. The one that I'm really paying attention to is the Packers wide receiver Jayden Reed, who could return in this game. He is limited for the first practice of the week, which we're talking here on Monday before Monday Night Football. So we'll see how it goes on Tuesday and Wednesday, but he could be a highly impactful, influential force on this football game, given the issues the Lions have had in their secondary and against the pass. Romeo Doubs is, of course, full participant. Christian Watson, full participant. So they already have a couple weapons that they can deal with in the passing game. But without Tucker Kraft, they certainly need another force, specifically in the middle of the field. And Reed would give them a lot, I do believe, in this offense. Also, Josh Jacobs, who didn't play this past week against the Vikings, should be back for this game, at least in some sort of rotation role, along with Emmanuel Wilson, who I think is a pretty underrated running back. Now, for the Lions, they have a couple big injuries and returns for this game as well. Terrion Arnold, who had a concussion, could be back for this game on Thursday. Look out for that. He didn't play against the Giants. And then also, cornerback who hasn't played for a while, I want to say since the first month of the season, that is DJ Reed, the corner of the Lions, who they signed from the Jets this offseason to replace Carlton Davis as their number one corner. He is off the injury report completely with a hamstring injury. He is good to go for Thanksgiving, which changes the calculus, it changes the math, it changes how we look at this game. The Lions struggled in coverage against the Giants with Wan'Dale Robinson as their number one option. And the Lions struggled against the Vikings a couple weeks back. The Lions have struggled offensively and defensively throughout the past month or so of football. Against the Eagles, they looked gross on offense, on the road, outdoors. It does help that the Lions are indoors at home and not going to Lambeau, where Jared Goff might have some discomfort in that setting against this pass rush. And I think when we break down the game, it's hard to know what we're going to get on the perimeter from both sides. It's hard to know what we're going to get from DJ Reed back. It's hard to know what we're going to get if Jayden Reed plays. It's kind of hard to calculate that. I will say that I think both teams offensively have slight advantages on both sides. I feel like both sides will be able to move the ball and throw the ball in this game. I do think that the Packers pass rush is going to be highly influential in how this game goes because the Lions have struggled with their interior pass protection. Jared Goff hasn't been as crisp or hasn't had the answers lately that it feels like he did last year under Ben Johnson, or the comfort consistently within the offense that he had under Ben Johnson. And he just doesn't look as composed in some of these moments. So I am not in love really with either quarterback right now. I'm not really in love with either of the offensive lines. I do know that Detroit at home is a much different animal, and it does feel like that crowd is going to be buzzing for this game against the Packers. It very well could be the game that decides the division at the end of the day. This is a huge game, I think, in particular for the Lions in their ability to make the playoffs, because I do believe they have a tougher schedule down the stretch. So there's a lot of wild cards here. It's hard for me to imagine that the Packers will sweep the Lions, especially with how the Packers have been playing lately. But also, I could see the Packers dominating up front on the defensive side and getting to Jared Goff and causing discomfort for Jared Goff. I could see a world where the Lions secondary, even with reinforcements, does struggle to cover Christian Watson and Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. I could see a world where Jordan Love gets a little bit hot here and makes some plays. So I could see the Packers going to Detroit and winning this game. We've certainly seen it on Thanksgiving in the past. I believe in 2023 they did that. So it's tough, man. And I do believe Matthew Golden will play this game, although he's not that important. And Nate Hobbs is limited. He didn't play last week, but Keyshawn Nixon didn't participate. Lucas Van Ness has been out for a while. He didn't participate. So there's quite a few injuries here. I do think they kept, I want to say they kept one of their linebackers out of last game, but I mean, they really could have left half their team. They didn't even have to play their defense against the Vikings. I mean, JJ McCarthy can't complete a pass, so I don't know how much I can really take away from that performance. Kirby Joseph didn't participate with a knee injury, and Graham Glasgow didn't participate with a knee injury. But again, this is on Monday, so their center, their safety, big injuries. And I don't know, man. This is really tough. Like, I think, honestly, I would look at, I think the defense is, oh man, this is tough. I really don't have like a best bet at the moment. I would honestly say I think the best way to play this might be teasing the Packers. That might be the best way to do it, is tease the Packers up to 8.5. I think this is a one-score game that honestly is going to come down to the wire. I like how the Packers match up with the Lions in terms of the Lions like to play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and I think that the Packers have the ability to separate at wide receiver, specifically Christian Watson. I think will have a good game here, and I think the Packers have a good enough pass rush to affect Jared Goff. I think the Packers don't give up a lot of explosive plays down the field, and I think they're solid against the run. So I think the Packers can kind of keep themselves in this game throughout the day, and I don't see the Lions in their current state creating margin in this game, especially if the Packers get an early lead like the Giants were able to. I'm also just not impressed with the Lions coaching, specifically on a short week. We've already seen Matt LaFleur and that staff, and I think the Packers have the better staff, out-coach the Lions once this year. So if anything, I don't mind the Packers on a teaser, but it does kind of feel like the Lions should win this game at home. The Lions, to me, are still the more talented team. They have the much more dynamic offensive weaponry. I think they have the more dynamic rushing attack with Jahmyr Gibbs at the helm. Not having their tight end Sam Laporta has certainly hurt them, but still, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, like, they should still make a lot of plays here, man. Like, but the offensive line really scares me for the Lions on the interior. So Graham Glasgow is a major injury here. The total, I want to kind of say the under, because I think this could be played in the 20s, but I think both offenses have struggled blocking consistently. Both offenses have struggled consistency-wise with the run game, and both quarterbacks have sputtered throughout the year. I could see an under in this game, just from the standpoint of the Lions are getting some of their cornerbacks back, and the Packers, I think, are going to be able to get pressure on Jared Goff. So I honestly don't have a strong play in this game. I will have a better opinion perhaps on Wednesday and where I firmly land, but I'm almost certain that I'll have the Packers in some sort of teaser. I want, like, everything in me kind of says the Lions, I just don't see them getting swept here. But at the same time, the Packers might just be a good matchup for the Lions in a lot of ways. And the Packers have not impressed me very much. But if they're able to press Jared Goff and they're able to slow down Jahmyr Gibbs, I think they can make plays on offense. So the points might be worth it, but it's only at 2.5. It's kind of a tricky number. I wouldn't be pressing to bet this, to be honest, in any way, shape, or form, but it's kind of my current state on this game. I think we need to see where the injuries go. I would say with those injuries, the biggest of them being Graham Glasgow, Jaden Reed. I do think Jaden Reed will be back for this game. I think that could change a lot of things for the Packers. He's not a great man-to-man separator, which certainly hurts against the Lions, but he's a guy that is a constant comfort player for Jordan Love over the middle of the field, and they've been missing that without Tucker Kraft. But again, if DJ Reed is back, that definitely helps the Lions in the secondary. So I want to say Lions win, Lions cover at home. They're not going to get swept by the Packers, but I would tease the Packers 100%. So that's kind of where I'm at in this game right now. Then that next game, we have the Cowboys and the Chiefs. I have a stronger sense for this game, I want to say. And the total is 52. I certainly would lean the under in this game. 52 is a lot of points, and I still feel like we're not quite calculating the improvements of Dallas's defense. And there's two significant injuries in this game that you have to pay attention to. Now, I currently, as we sit here at 2:36 Pacific time on a Monday, I don't see the injury report out for the Cowboys and the Chiefs quite yet, like I do for the other games, weirdly enough. But Trey Smith is going to be out for a while for the Chiefs. He is an all-pro caliber guard for Kansas City. Huge loss specifically against Dallas. And then tackle Guyton for the Cowboys is expected to be out for this game. So multiple offensive line injuries could cause pressure for both quarterbacks in this game, which is a reason to take the under. I also think that, again, the Cowboys defense is mispriced. I think the Cowboys defense, specifically at home, is a much better unit than it's been for a majority of the year. We saw that against Philadelphia. This is now a top 10 defensive line in football with Quinnen Williams, Odighizuwa, Kenny Clark, Dante Fowler, Ezra Raku, Sam Williams. You go down the list. Dante Fowler, if I didn't mention his name already. This is a good defensive front with speed, with finesse, with power. They can stop the run. They have multiple bodies and multiple line changes to get after you with, right? And that could cause a lot of problems for Patrick Mahomes without Trey Smith. They already have some key injuries to the interior offensive line, and they're already kind of weak there outside of Creed Humphrey. I kind of like Dallas in this game because I think their defensive front, it's going to be hard to run on them in this game. And then I think Quinnen Williams and Odighizuwa could dominate this game on the inside. I really do. If Trey Smith is out, which I'm fully expecting, I kind of think if you can contain Mahomes in the pocket and just press the pocket with those two guys up the middle, they're going to get relentless pressure. And even if Dallas doesn't have great corners in the back end, Overshown is looking really good since that injury at linebacker. He can kind of go sideline to sideline and scoop up Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy on those crossing routes and tackle them in space. And we've seen Logan Wilson play this offense many times in Cincinnati. He kind of knows this offense very well. So Dallas likes to play a lot of zone. I think in this matchup, specifically because Trey Smith is injured, that's going to be to their benefit because I think they're going to be able to get pressure on Mahomes right up the middle. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to properly balance their offense in the run game. So I think it's going to have to be on Mahomes throwing the ball a lot. And I think that Dallas is going to get interior pressure. On the other side, it does scare me that Dallas is missing their left tackle. But Guyton is not Trey Smith. And I do think that the Chiefs have a pretty weak pass rush, specifically edge pass rush. Typically, George Karlaftis does line up on the other side anyways. And really, no matter where he lines up, you can just chip him and get help towards his side and leave Charles Omenihu or whoever else Kansas City wants to rush against their backup or against whoever. Just have that guy rush Like, he's not good. So, Kansas City, you need to be able to block Chris Jones. And Dallas, they did a pretty good job against Jalen Carter. And Dak has been doing a really good job of navigating and moving away from pressure. And when you look at how Dallas's offense is built, they have 2 alpha number 1 receivers. So Trent McDuffie can only cover one of those guys. Now, Jalen Watson is really good too. But we've seen Kansas City struggle with good precision pocket passers this year. And we've seen them struggle against passing games when that quarterback has some time to work. And I think that Justin Herbert kind of showed us that on week 1 of, all weeks. And I kind of feel like Dak is going to be able to kind of expose this defense, because if they blitz, I think that's being a little bit over aggressive against some of these weapons of Dallas. I think if they try to play too much zone, Dak is just going to pick them apart underneath. And I think if they play man-to-man, I think it's going to be difficult for, them to really match up in this game. And I don't think they're going to get the 4-man pressure that a Dallas is going to get on the other side. I could be wrong. It's hard to fade Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve Spagnuolo in a big setting in a big game. But Dallas is going to be fired up for this game. This is a game against the Chiefs at home, coming off a big win against the Eagles. They need this game to stay alive in the playoff race. Dallas does have the better offense here. I think they have the better pass rush here. They are at home. They're really good at home. They have the better running game in this game. Javonte Williams, the balance will be on their side. The time of possession may also be on their side. I think you could make a strong argument they might have the better quarterback in this game. Dak has outplayed Patrick Mahomes for a majority of this season. And the only real area I think Kansas City is stronger is their perimeter. So like the Cowboys corners against the Chiefs receivers, I think that definitely weighs in favor of the Chiefs. I think that the Dallas receivers versus the Chiefs corners, I think the Chiefs can sort of play with those guys, but not necessarily. I don't know if anyone really can, right? So, and then you have to really worry about Ferguson as well, who's another guy that can get open against linebackers and safeties. So I kind of like Dallas getting 3 in the hook. I'm not going to lie. I think they keep this game within a field goal. I even think they could win this game. And then the total 52, I'm going to go under simply because of the pass rush of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to go under because I think Dallas is a different team than they were. And I do kind of feel like the Chiefs offense is a little overrated. They struggle in the red zone. They struggle to run the football. And I do kind of think that the offensive line injuries, left tackle and a right guard who is an all-pro, those 2 injuries are significant to scoring points in this game. So I'm going to take the under 52. It's a lot of points. I think the game probably lands around 49, 48 in that range, 47 maybe, but like 50 maybe even, but like 30, 30 to 20, 21, I don't know, like it could be it, and 30 I think is asking a lot. I think this is more of like a 27-24 type game. This is more of like a 24-23. And both offenses kind of struggled in the red zone last week too, Dallas and Kansas City. So I'm going to take the points with Dallas. I think that's the way that I favor. I also would include Dallas with a teaser with the Packers in this game because I think Dallas, like I said, I just think fundamentally they are a different team now with Quinnen Williams. I think it makes them different. Logan Wilson with Overshown, it makes them a different team. Even Revel at corner, I think it makes them a better team. And they've got the kicker who can kick from 60. Butker could probably do that as well, but you got to put that into the fold too. And Turpin is a dangerous returner, so I like Dallas. I think Dallas is just as good as the Chiefs, if not better, to be honest with you. And they're at home in this game. Next, we've got Thanksgiving primetime. 52 is the total. Ravens -7 at home against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Now, notice how I said Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Joe Burrow is back. Joe Flacco, sit on the bench, sir. You have done your service. Joe Flacco did great in many of these games. Last couple of games, not as well, okay? But the Bengals defense has low-key played a lot better since their bye week, which was 2 weeks ago. They held the Steelers to only 13 offensive points before 2 defensive touchdowns. They held Drake May and the Patriots actually pretty well in that game last week. Marcus Jones returned a touchdown against Joe Flacco, so 3 touchdowns from opposing defenses in the last 2 games. If not for that, they could have been down to the wire with both of those teams. And Joe Burrow is back to play a pretty flawed Ravens team. And we're going to look at the injury reports here. I know for a fact that T. Higgins is out because of a concussion he suffered against the Patriots. That certainly hurts if you like the Bengals. Trey Hendrickson has already been ruled out, so that definitely hurts. I thought they might get those guys back, especially Trey Hendrickson. I thought he would play this game. But it's hard to know what Joe Burrow is going to provide off of an injury, a significant toe injury. He might be not as mobile. He might not be as refined. He might not be as just overall in tune with the game right now, or his players around him, or his receivers around him, or the offense around him, because he's might be rusty, period. The Ravens, meanwhile, look really rusty on offense. Like, their run game hasn't been super great with Derrick Henry. Lamar's not moving the same way. And defensively, they're playing a lot better overall, but they do have some injuries. So let's take a look at the injury report. So we have Joe Burrow is a full participant. He is back, as mentioned. Trey Hendrickson is out. T. Higgins is out. Everyone else, I mean, for the Bengals, it's pretty much what it's been. So there's nothing really else that's going on with this team. One thing to watch is how the Bengals' offensive line looks, because they've looked pretty good with Joe Flacco, but Joe Burrow has more of a tendency to hold the ball, and that could maybe provide more pressure onto the quarterback, okay? But I will say that if they keep performing the way they've been performing, then the Ravens don't have a dynamic pass rush. But the game is in Baltimore. The Ravens have mostly owned the Bengals from a win-loss perspective, even if the Bengals have played them about as well as any team in the league over the last couple of years. So I'm trying to find the injury report for the Ravens. It's kind of difficult to find. I'm looking up on Twitter. But I do know they suffered a couple injuries in that game against the Jets. I'm trying to find it if I can. The Bengals have released theirs. I'm not sure if Kyle Hamilton is out for this game. I mean, that's obviously a hugely impactful injury. He got hurt again against the Jets. So I'm trying to look for Kyle Hamilton. Provides good news on Kyle Hamilton. That was last night. Left the Ravens game twice, but Harbaugh offered some good news. So I'm just trying to check on this because I don't want to really give you a pick without knowing about probably the second or best safety in the league. I think he'll play. He does not have a serious injury. Rolled his ankle. Okay. So if I were to get, I don't know if I love laying 7 with this current version of the Ravens, especially with the wild card that is the version of this Ravens offense. Under 52 might not be a bad look. Again, 52 is a very big number. And honestly, playing unders on a day like Thanksgiving where the public is going to be taking a lot of overs is also not a bad idea. Now, the Ravens and Bengals have typically played a lot of high-scoring games, but neither quarterback is in their best form, and both are injured, right? Both offensive lines can be had. T. Higgins is out, and the Bengals have seemingly played better on defense in recent weeks, and the Ravens have played better on defense in recent weeks. Draymond Jones has been a nice addition for the Ravens. He's actually played really well. Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, they have their complete secondary for the Ravens, which is a good unit. And I do believe that whether it be Draymond Jones, Kyle Hamilton, or not Kyle Hamilton, but Kyle Van Noy can create some pressure at times on Joe Burrow. I'm just unsure that Joe Burrow is really going to be able to operate at the high level, and that might cause some rustiness. And I have been impressed by the Bengals' run offense. I will say that. I think Chase Brown has looked really good. He had the best game of any player this season against the Patriots' run defense. So that's something to note. And Derrick Henry could definitely go off in this game against the Bengals' run defense, which is not a very good unit. But like I said, they've played better the last couple games. I will say Rashad Bateman is an injury to look out for. He did not play last week. He may not play this week. It's a short week. Zay Flowers has looked electric the last couple of games. Their tight ends have not been very involved, but the Bengals do really struggle against tight ends. They really struggled against Hunter Henry, who had over 100 yards. It's hard to take an under with the Bengals defense, just period. But again, if you want to put the Ravens in a teaser along with the Packers and the Cowboys, I think that might be the play. Packers, Ravens, Cowboys teaser, that feels like a pretty good, solid bet. I'm just not sure that the Bengals are going to be able to go on the road without T. Higgins, without Trey Hendrickson, into the Ravens' house, a place that they haven't won very often in recent years. Joe Burrow off a significant injury and win this game, even with the state of Lamar Jackson. And there are some favorable matchups for the Ravens in this game offensively when it comes to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, when it comes to Derrick Henry running the football. That could ease Lamar Jackson's load. And as well, I really think the Ravens secondary is really, really solid right now. So a guy like Nate Wiggins, Jamar Chase is an absolute animal. Mike Gesicki could have a good game here. But as long as we see that Marlon Humphrey's playing, Kyle Hamilton's playing, I think they'll do a decent enough job of slowing down the Bengals in key spots. I don't know. Honestly, I would probably take the Bengals +7 if I had to. I would probably take the under 52 if I had to. But the spreads are difficult on these days. I like Dallas. 52 is a large number with two quarterbacks not at their best. I would probably take the under. But I do like the Ravens to win this game. I think they are going to win this game. They should win this game at least. So those are kind of my looks on Thanksgiving, guys. I know it's not like super confident or anything, but I wanted to give you that thorough thoughts and thorough analysis on it. And maybe I do have a better feeling on Wednesday. So definitely tune in on Wednesday to see my confirmed picks. But for now, that's kind of where I stand. I do love that teaser, though. I'm not going to lie. Now, Black Friday is interesting. Philadelphia is at home. They're favored by 7, and the total is 44.5. At home against Chicago. Chicago is on the road, or they're not as good as they are at home. And they're playing the Super Bowl champs off a loss where they were up big, and they let it slip away. The Eagles are a really difficult team to handicap because their offense is very inconsistent. They're also a team that should be able to run the football, but just can't run the football. And Chicago is a run funnel. Their defense is atrocious against the run. But the Eagles really, it's weird to say, they really haven't been able to run the ball on pretty much anyone except for the Giants. Like for the entire year. That's it. And the Giants are a really bad run defense. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs had 215 yards on like 15 carries. That's how bad they are in run defense, okay? 44.5 is the total, and I think that this is weird because the Bears are an over team right now, and the Eagles are an under team. So this makes this really tough. If I were to be honest, I think the only way you can go is playing the Bears +7 in this game. I think that's a lot of points considering the Bears have a very good offensive line, specifically a very good interior offensive line, and they should be able to hold Jalen Carter, Ajomo, Jordan Davis intact and at bay. The Bears do have a plethora of talented weapons. DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monongai, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Cole Kmet, and Colston Loveland, who looks really good. Caleb doesn't really turn the ball over much. Him and Jalen are fairly similar in the way they play. They're very inconsistent and kind of erratic, but they both are very good athletes. Both can run, and both can create explosive plays, and both don't really turn it over. So the Bears have the better running game in this game. Ben Johnson is the better coach in this game. I like Dennis Allen, and I think Dennis Allen is a very smart coach, and I think he can prep a good game plan for a very limited Eagles offense that doesn't do a lot. I mean, they just don't do a lot. Now, Jalen Hurts will have a lot of time to throw in this game. Jalen Hurts will probably be able to find his receivers at times. The Bears could be a lot healthier on defense in this game. They were missing all 3 starting linebackers last week against Pittsburgh. Maybe one of them comes back, maybe both of them. Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon could be back for this game. I think that they held them out for Pittsburgh to get them back for this game. So a lot of injury-dependent stuff. I'm going to check to see if there was an injury report released. I'm not sure if there is because it's only Monday. But I think I like the Bears +7. And I think I would actually lean towards the over because I do believe that the Bears are going to be able to make enough plays with Ben Johnson scheming things up to move the football. I think they'll also run the ball fairly well in this game. And I do think that at the same time, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles passing game should be able to make some plays because Chicago just has a very limited pass rush, like a very limited pass rush. Okay. And I really respect the Eagles defense, but I think that 44.5 is a fairly manageable number. I think this feels like this feels kind of in that mid-20s range. I could see this being like a 27-23 type game where Philly maybe wins, but Chicago covers. That's the type of game I think I'm seeing here. It could even be 24-21 and you go over in this game. So I kind of lean over, and I also lean Chicago. I'm going to bank on the Chicago coaching as well as the Chicago offensive line to keep this one close. And Dennis Allen at times just coming up with a good plan for the Eagles. But at the same time, I could see where Jalen Hurts has a lot of time and they're able to make enough plays to win this game at home, especially coming off a loss. If the Eagles lose this game, I think that's really big. I mean, that's and you never know because the Eagles, 2 years ago, right, in 2023, they had very similar issues around this time of the season. They fell apart. They had very similar issues for the entire year where they were winning a lot of games close and they eventually fell apart. It could be the same thing this year. Now, the defense is stellar this season, and 2 years ago, they were horrible, and they were a large part of it. But the offense right now is just so inconsistent. It's hard to bet on these games when it comes to the Eagles. And that's probably why I wouldn't include the Eagles in any sort of teaser or money line, because I think they could lose this game. I'm not even a big Bears guy. You guys know that. I'm not even really that high on the Bears. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of elements of the Eagles that are just simply overrated, from the offense in general. The quarterback, we'll see if Lane Johnson can go. Maybe, maybe not. Let's just double check to see if there is an injury report in case I'm missing anything. And then we'll get to the Sunday games. Let's see. I don't think so, but if I had to guess, I think Jalen Johnson will be back for this game, which is pretty significant when it comes to facing off against A.J. Brown. Yeah, I don't see anything, unfortunately. I don't know about Edwards and Edmonds, the linebackers, though. Okay, let's get to the Sunday games, guys. Now, this was the first game that came to mind. This was the first spread that popped out to me. Bills have had a 10-day preparation rest period for the Pittsburgh Steelers at Pittsburgh. The total is 47.5. I think the only way I can lean here is over in that regard. But this is mainly, we on our early picks, we mainly break down the spread, and we'll give that pick out on Wednesday. I like the Bills -4. I think that Buffalo is a terrifyingly bad matchup for the Steelers, and I'm pretty good when it comes to Bills games. I nailed the Patriots upsetting the Bills earlier in the year. I nailed the Texans upsetting the Bills just last week. I think the Bills will hammer the Steelers in this game. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think that the Bills can protect Josh Allen in this game. I think that their running game will provide to be issues for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I do think the Steelers are slow in the secondary. They can't play man coverage. Dalton Kincaid with extra week of rest might be back. I really liked how Khalil Shakir played last week. And I just think that people are going to have stuck in their minds how the Texans dominated the Bills. And that is just a one-off. This Texans defense is historically good. They're in line with the Legion of Boom in terms of statistics. The Steelers are the worst, literal worst team against the pass in the NFL, 32nd. They're also not a good run defense. The only thing they do is they turn the ball over and they rush the passer. But Josh Allen can avoid pressure. This is a good offensive line of the Bills. We've seen these teams match up many times before, and Josh Allen has played extremely well against them many times before. I don't think the Steelers will slow down the Bills very often in this game. And I think that, if anything, Josh Allen is kind of getting a little bit more rapport with some of these guys, like Gabe Davis returning to the lineup. he's having some guys outside of Keon Coleman, who's been sitting on the bench the last couple of weeks, that he can actually rely on in certain scenarios. So I think the Bills are going to win this game, and I think they're going to respond after a loss to the Texans in a major way, and I think they're going to smash the Steelers. This is probably going to be a best bet. And like I said, I think they'll score 30 points. So I would like the over in this game. The only area where I'm really scared is the Steelers could run the ball on the Bills pretty effectively, but everyone can kind of do that. I think when it comes to the passing game, the Bills clearly have the advantages in their pass rush, in their coverage. The Steelers don't have great receivers, right? Like Mason Rudolph. Does it even matter if it's Aaron Rodgers, injured Aaron Rodgers? Like, Pittsburgh doesn't scare me, even at home. I like the Bills here. I like Josh Allen to respond, and I like him to have a huge day. So I love the Bills here, -4. Next, the 49ers, -6. This is simply a fade of the Shedeur Sanders circus. I know that the Niners have struggled against Cleveland. I know that Kyle Shanahan has struggled against Jim Schwartz. Trust me, I'm a Kyle Shanahan stan, and if anyone knows this, I know this. But I just think that the Niners, they kind of need to keep winning, and we'll see how they perform on Monday Night Football. But I just don't think Cleveland can score with Shedeur Sanders. I know they played the Raiders and they won, but he had 70 air yards in that game, and that he threw basically essentially one pass for 56 yards to Isaiah Bond. Other than that, they did nothing. And the 49ers, their weakness is their defense. And I just feel like Robert Saleh against a third-string quarterback is going to have answers. I don't think Cleveland is going to be able to run the ball that efficiently. I think it's going to fall on Shedeur Sanders. And the Niners' offense is a juggernaut. And as good as Cleveland's defense is, as good as their defensive line is, they only have one Denzel Ward to cover one of these weapons. And I do think that Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, just too many weapons for the 49ers. And honestly, as long as Brock Purdy doesn't poop himself, or there is weather in this game, if there is weather in this game, I would stay away from this game. If there is any sort of rain, stay away from the game. But I think the 49ers are simply just going to win by slowly matriculating the ball down the field, screen passes, running the football, playing safe football on offense, Kyle scheming things up. I think we've seen enough this year from certain offenses like the Steelers and the Patriots, how to scheme up and stay away from Myles Garrett and scheme up against this pass rush. The 49ers did a really good job of that against a team like the Rams, and I think they can do that against Cleveland. And I feel like, McCaffrey's been such a weapon out of the backfield. George Kittle's going to be a really tough guy for the Browns to stop. The last time that the Niners went to Cleveland and they lost a couple of years ago on their Super Bowl run, they had Trent Williams out. They had Christian McCaffrey out. There was injuries all over the place. And it was raining. This time around, if it's not raining and the Niners are healthy on offense, I like the Niners because I just don't think Cleveland can keep up with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. Look at the game against the Raiders. First of all, the Raiders are atrocious. They are all-time bad. Second of all, they were given the ball at the 13-yard line off a punt return. Second, they scored a 66-yard screen pass. And then their only other touchdown was set up by that bomb. They did nothing for the rest of the game. So I just think that 6 is not enough. The Niners are clearly the better team with Kyle Shanahan at head coach and, just probably an understanding of we have not been good against Cleveland. Let's get a win here. I think there is going to be a little bit of that as well. So the 49ers -6 was my next look on the, as long as it's under a touchdown, I like the 49ers. Next, I like Tennessee +6.5. That's probably criminal to say, but Trevor Lawrence is turning the ball over twice a game at the very least. He turned it over 4 times last week against the Cardinals. How can you trust Trevor Lawrence on the road in a divisional game as a near touchdown favorite against nearly anybody? Cam Ward might outperform him here. And the thing I like about this game is that Cam Ward's been playing, I thought he played really well against Seattle, and I think he can throw the ball against Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville can be had in the passing game, and that's going to keep Cam Ward and the Titans in the game. I also think the Titans are a much better defense when they have Jeff Simmons. And I do think that Jeff Simmons, Arden Key, and Sweat, Big Tavondre, can wreck the pocket and get to Trevor Lawrence here. I think that this is one of those games where the Titans can make enough stops with their pass rush, and I think that Cam Ward is going to hang in this game. I think 6.5 at home, divisional AFC South contest. Tennessee has covered a couple games in a row. Seattle, they hung around. They played well early. They hung around late. I think that Tennessee with 6.5 against a really flawed Jacksonville team and defense and secondary is not a bad look. It's not my favorite bet, but it's probably too much value to pass up. Next, I like the Texans plus 4.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. The Texans are a special defense. They are a special defense. You're giving me 4.5 points. With this defense, I'm probably going to take it every single time. And I look at the Colts defensively, and I think that right now, without DeForest Buckner, they're really struggling to stop the run. They even struggled to stop the run against the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs, who are terrible at running the ball. And yeah, their corners are good and stuff, but I don't think even, I don't know. We'll see about Sauce Gardner, but Nico Collins is going to make plays, and the Texans have depth at receiver. Like, we've seen Jaden Higgins make plays. We've seen Christian Kirk make plays. We've seen Dalton Schultz make plays. Jalen Noel makes plays. I don't think the Colts have a great pass rush. I don't think they're going to overwhelm the Texans up front on the offensive line. Woody Marks is playing well out of the backfield, and Davis Mills is playing pretty good football, but if CJ Stroud's back, you know he kind of brings a little bit more elusiveness, a little bit more athleticism to that quarterback position to extend and make some plays. But you look at the Texans defensively, and their pass rush is ridiculous. And with that type of pass rush against a guy like Daniel Jones is he's just kind of like a little rattled and a little, just his confidence can get out of whack. And I do think the Texans have a secondary that, especially if they get Jalen Petrie back, can cover and contest these Colts receivers and playmakers. They're so fast and so vicious, and they, the Colts run game, sure, it's good, but we've seen Jonathan Taylor be corralled against the Chiefs and the Steelers, and recently they haven't quite ran the ball as well. And I do think the Texans are not really letting a lot of teams run the ball. Buffalo did to a decent amount, but you're so worried about Josh Allen in that game. I kind of think that you take the points with the Texans just because you take this defense, man. You just take this defense and you ride with it, and the Colts are not playing great on defense in their own right, so if the Texans can put together a couple drives, you never know. 4.5, that's a nice number in a game that should be decided around a touchdown. It's a 4-point, 3-point type game. I think 4.5 is a really nice number in this matchup. Next, I don't know how you don't take Seattle at home minus 10.5 or 10 against the Vikings. I don't even really know about this quarterback that the Vikings are about to start. He's young, he's inexperienced, and he's playing against Mike McDonald, and he's playing against a team that does not let you run the football in the Seattle Seahawks, and Seattle did not have a pretty defensive performance last week against the Titans. They didn't finish extremely well, and that's the only reason they didn't cover that game. The Seahawks at home with that crowd noise against that quarterback, with Sam Darnold in a revenge game, Seattle creates a lot of explosive passes, and Brian Flores and the Vikings' biggest weakness has been explosive passes. So if Seattle can continue to do that, and I could see Rashid Shaheed getting behind the defense here, somebody just down the field, because the Vikings, they have one good cornerback. His name is Isaiah Rodgers. Other than that, they don't have anything else. And their corners are not very good. And I do feel like we'll see about Jonathan Grenard, but they haven't quite had that same pass rush. I just kind of think Seattle's defense is going to overwhelm the Vikings. Christian Darrisaw is injured at left tackle. Justin Jefferson's frustrated. They haven't been able to throw the ball. Their run game has been their best part of their offense, but they won't be able to run the ball against Seattle because really no one can. And I think the team will be fired up for Sam here. I think this is a galvanizing type of matchup for Seattle. So I think Seattle wins. I think they win easy, and I think they win going away at home. This is a lot of points. The Carolina Panthers at home getting 10 against anyone. This is literally the best team in the league, the Los Angeles Rams. But it's the Rams on the road at Carolina, giving up 10 points against a team that will be likely 500 entering the game. I know that the Panthers aren't great. Bryce Young isn't great. But 10 points? That's too many points. Especially considering I think the Panthers have a good run defense and they can slow down Kyren Williams. JC Horn is a good matchup for Devontae Adams. And sure, they'll give up some plays to Puka Nacua, but Panthers struggle in the middle of the field. And the Rams are not good with their running backs. Their tight ends are not great. They're a fine. Stafford is playing phenomenal football, and he will have time to throw against the Panthers. But Carolina's a lot better at home. Bryce Young's a lot better at home. They should be able to be competitive against Devontae Adams and the run game. So there are aspects of their defense that I think can hold up here. There is actually familiarity between Evero, their defensive coordinator, and a little bit of that Rams defense and scheme and overall coaching staff. Canales, he's worked inside that division a lot, so he kind of knows that staff. And then you look at the offense, like McMillan should be able to have some plays in this game against those cornerbacks. The Panthers have a good offensive line and should be able to give time for Bryce Young in this game. And Bryce Young's the exact type of quarterback like Mac Jones, who had success against the Rams. Quick underneath trigger, just throw the ball. And Bryce can actually create a little bit by scrambling on occasion. Plus, the Panthers are strong running the ball, so the Rams have to respect that to a certain degree. And Coker's back, right? They've got more weapons now. Leggett after the catch. No nickel corner for the Rams. What's his name? He didn't play against the Bucs either. It was hard to know what that Bucs game, there's really like the Bucs are not a good matchup for the Rams on defense. Maybe the Panthers aren't either, but the Bucs weren't getting 10 points. And the Bucs were on the road, right? And the Rams aren't going to be taking the Panthers all that serious. Let's be honest. They're coming off a primetime win where they walked all over the Bucs. It's just human nature. It's just human nature. I don't think the Rams, a week after playing Sunday Night Football against the Bucs, are going to go into Carolina and play with the same fire and energy. I just really don't see it. Nobody's really going to be paying attention to this game. So I kind of like the Panthers here. And I think that they can hang in this game. Sunday Night Football. Prime time. We have the Washington Commanders at home getting 7 against the Denver Broncos. Washington's coming off of a bye week. Of course, they were in Spain to play the Dolphins not that long ago, and their defense looked a lot better in that game. Denver is coming off that Chiefs victory. They're also off of a bye, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of like Washington with points here. Jaden Daniels probably will be back. I'm not 100% sure about Terry McLaurin, but he could be back in this game. I'm also not 100% sure about Pat Surtain. Again, I'm doing this on a Monday, so I'm not exactly sure, Sunday night, who's going to take place. So pay attention to the injury report, but Pat Surtain could be big. Terry McLaurin could be big. I think Surtain might still be out, but McLaurin could be back, which is significant. And then Jaden Daniels, I think, should be back. Washington's at home in a primetime game. And it's one of those games where it's like, it's not the Chiefs. It's not the Chargers. It's not the Patriots. It's not the Colts. It's not the Texans even. It's some NFC East team on the road. Sunday Night Football, cool, but this could be a sneaky game for the Broncos. We've seen the Broncos fall asleep against the Giants, fall asleep against the Jets. They're not going to be up for this game. And yes, the Broncos have an awesome defense. They've got a great pass rush. But you know how you negate a pass rush? A really elusive quarterback and a really quick screen game? And that's two things that the Washington Commanders do extremely well. And if McLaurin's back, they actually have a threatening X receiver. Washington's defense also plays a lot of man coverage. And they also, I just don't think that the Broncos offense is very good. Bo Nix is very inconsistent. Their run game is very inconsistent, especially without J.K. Dobbins. And their receivers are just fine. I don't think they're anything special. I think Dan Quinn, with a bye week since taking over the play calling against Miami, he did better there. I think situationally they were better. Red zone, things like that. They played hard. I think Washington's going to come out of this bye week playing hard, refocused, with a little bit more sprinkle of some different stuff on defense. And I think that the Commanders are going to be in this game. I think Denver probably wins this game. I wouldn't even be shocked if Washington somehow won this game. But, I like 7 against Denver because Denver does not have an electric offense that wins by margin. They're a defensive team. It's probably going to be a lower scoring game. And I like Jaden Daniels in this game, in a close game. So I'll take the +7 here. I will take the +7. This probably will be a best bet on Sunday Night Football. And I would also lean under 43.5 because it's the Broncos. And then Monday Night Football. New England -7.5 at home Monday night I don't know who the Giants quarterback is. I would assume it will be Jackson Dart, but if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm happy about that. I would be much more afraid of Jameis Winston. Personally, I think Jameis Winston is a better passer of the ball, and I think that he is more of a threat to what the Patriots are on defense. So I'm not exactly sure if Dart will play. I think he will, but yeah, I just don't really, I don't really know, but I kind of think the Giants are going to cover. I think the Patriots may find a way to win. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants upset the Patriots here. The key injuries for the Patriots: left tackle Will Campbell is out for a while. Left guard Jared Wilson's out for a while. So 2 missing starting offensive linemen. Now, the Patriots do have Drake May. They do have a pretty damn good defense. Milton Williams is also on IR, and we saw that impact their run defense against the Bengals. The Bengals had a really good rushing day with Chase Brown. That being said, the Giants don't have a great running game, and they don't have great weapons in general. The Patriots defense at home is probably better than what the Lions had on defense, but again, Jameis is a wild card. If it's Jameis, I'm all over the Giants in this game. If it's Jackson Dart, I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I'd still probably lean with a 7.5 towards the Giants covering this game, because I do think there will be moments for the Giants pass rush against the Patriots' weakened offensive line to get pressure and get some stops against the Patriots. The Patriots are also a bad running team. Like, this team can't run the ball. They hit some explosives, but the major Achilles heel and weakness of the Giants is their run defense. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Travion Henderson hits multiple home run touchdowns, and I'm totally wrong, and the Patriots run away with this game. And that could happen because the Giants' run defense against Jahmyr Gibbs was atrocious, right? Like, that could happen. That scares you a little bit. But the Giants are getting healthier on defense, and I kind of think, like, they'll be able to move the ball a bit and kind of stay in the game. And I think their pass rush will keep them in the game to a certain degree. Like, I think the Giants are going to hang with the Patriots here. I think the Patriots will probably win, but 7.5 is a lot of points considering their offensive line injuries, considering no Milton Williams, and considering that the Giants have been feisty. I mean, they put up 500 yards against the Lions. They've been in a lot of games this year. They went to Denver and they held close. Like, they've been in a lot of games against good teams. They beat the Eagles. Like, they've beaten a lot. They're a very feisty team. Jameis, they held with the Packers really close. So it's New England in prime time with the much better quarterback and coaching staff. So I would probably take the Patriots to win the game. But the Giants might just find a way to stay in it. And the Giants, speaking as a Patriots fan, that's a logo and a team that has constantly had the upper hand on this team, no matter what. So, yeah, just throwing that out there on Monday Night Football. The total, I would lean over 46.5 in the game. There it is, guys. My early best bets for week number 12. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. It's Mitch. Let's make some money in week 12. Peace. Good luck, guys.